So you're thinking to transition from a developer to a manager. Which path should you choose? I will talk to you on this video. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Marlon Vidal and I'm a former tech manager in Grupo Boticário, one of the biggest companies in Brazil, where I was responsible for managing 5 teams of more than 50 developers working on the largest e-commerces to fulfill more than 4,000 stores spread across the country. And what I want to teach to you today is how you should transition your mental thinking model, especially when you want to become a manager in your career. First of all, you need to answer to yourself, why do you want to be a manager? Is it because you want to earn more? Because on manager path, usually you have more positions to grow in your career? Or do you truly want to make a difference in the life of people who work with you and the results that you can deliver to your company? If you want to work just for money, my advice to you is to grab more freelancer work and you will be able to make more money, because the type of skill that you have as a developer, you need a completely different set of skills when you change to a manager, especially a tech manager or engineer manager, because you will need to fit both your technical skills, people skills, and business skills, everything together. This is what is expected from this role, and you need to prepare to actually make difference in the company. So first thing, let's determine the difference between a tech leader or a senior developer in your team and a tech manager or engineer manager. Usually the tech lead is the responsible for taking the technical decisions. Which architecture are we going to choose for tackle a specific problem? Which kind of technologies are we going to use to provide a solution for that problem? You will be responsible for lead the other developers in your team to implement the solution that you plan, and you need to make sure it will be implemented by your team. And the tech manager usually fits the gap between the business, the technology side, and the people who are going to make that happen. So you're not just a manager of people, you are a manager of expectations, people, and to be like the glue of the business and the technology itself. And depending on the size of the company that you work, you may find people who are the tech lead and the tech manager or engineer manager at the same time. And for more big companies, you will usually have a specific role for engineer manager and another role for tech lead. One of the first things that you take into consideration to become an engineer manager is that besides only a manager, you will be a leader for your team and for the business. And if you don't have those skills, you can learn them. This is the most important part. It depends on you and how much effort are you willing to put to acquire those skills. And whenever you see the opportunity, you will show your tools so other people can see you as a reference and a strategic partner to make the business grow and achieve business results. So what is to be a leader? A leader is someone who has the vision for where should we go and make sure that everyone follows the same paths towards we reach that vision. You need to inspire other people who works with you. There are days that people are not feeling good enough, but besides that, they need to keep going. And you will be the person who will make everyone be aligned and progressing every single day until we reach our final destination. You will be the one who is going to communicate the technical thing with the business thing. You need to translate what the business needs and what technology can do, so you guys can have an agreement about what can be done and what results can we expect about what we are building right now. You will be responsible for making decisions. Do you have enough data or do you have experience to make decisions that will affect not just your team, but the entire company? You need to be prepared for this. You need to adapt to everything that might happen during your journey. It's a kind of funny, but once we have a plan, almost everything happens to make your plan more difficult to execute. So you need to have some kind of resilience to change the route and adapt the team accordingly to the challenges that we will face. And if it's not working, you need to give a step back, change the direction again, and proceed until you find your destination. A leader needs to have integrity. You need to be loyal. You need to be consistent. You need to perform actions that are felt and heard by everyone in every context. Your word is your best asset throughout your entire career. You need to show empathy. You need to understand the feelings, the emotions, and how people works, so you understand how to communicate better with them and extract the best from them. You need to learn how to delegate. How do you align some expectations with the members of your team so they can have enough autonomy to perform the tasks the way he wants, but you have agreed on the results? So this is how you delegate in a proper way. And continuous learning. As a leader, you always need to be on the top performance of your team. So what do you do to keep learning? What do you do to keep your skills sharp? Because you don't have to be the most clever person in your team, but you need to understand what makes people better than you, and those are the guys that are going to hire to your team. And if you currently are a developer and want to make this step on your career, I think the best opportunity is in your company, because people already know you, people know about your potential, and if you make clear to your manager that you want to pursue this career, what can you do on your individual development plan to acquire those skills and set some expectation with your manager about whether or not you are prepared for a role, if that role exists, and once they exist, what can you do to be the first person to be chosen for be at this place? Another thing that you will be responsible is for people management. And to correctly manage people, you need to understand what they like, what they dislike. Is that person works better in the morning, in the night? What are their intrinsic motivators? And how you can leverage this to mix what he wants to do in his career and what kind of challenge the business have. So this person might be the perfect fit for, at the very same time, challenging himself and achieve what the business needs. This way, you will build trust with the members of your team, and during the time, they will respect you more and you will have more influence in their behaviors and about the deliverables they will produce for your team, and that will be your result and how you will be evaluated by your managers. And once you have the trust and knows how each member of your team works, it's time to deep dive into psychologist things. Which kind of topics do I recommend to you? Read more and understand better so you can not just understand people who work with you, but you grow as a human being to understand how other people behave, act, and feel in some contexts. For example, which kind of resources do you consume to improve your communication? Who do you talk with? Which kind of words do you choose to express your ideas and make yourself understandable for that people? This is one of the main skills that you need to have in your tool belt to actually make things happen and make everyone understand what you need to achieve and how you can solve a bunch of conflicts that will arise along your journey. How do you motivate and how do you engage your team? You need to understand that motivation is something you cannot introduce into other people, but once you understand their motivation, how do you make to connect what he wants to do, what the business wants, and how that can bring joy and growth for everyone in that place. And how do you engage? Which kind of tools and methods you can use to people tell what they think, how they can contribute with creating better solutions and help the business to thrive in this competitive market. It's your role to make those people engage in the business. How do you resolve conflicts? And not just business conflicts. You might face in your career situations where people will disagree with each other, not in a good way, and this will cause conflict. And how do you approach, how do you solve this kind of thing? You need to learn what can you do, listen to both parts involved in this conflict, and make a decision that not necessarily will make everyone satisfied, but will make the correct decision, the one that most of people will agree, and you keep the environment on your team the best possible so you can make them work their best. You need to understand about emotional intelligence. How do you deal with your emotions? How do you deal with your fears? If you don't know how to manage yourself, how can you manage other people? So it's a good subject to understand better, because if you develop your own emotional intelligence, you might help other members, and this will cause an exponential growth in the soft skills from your team members. How do you manage the performance of your team members? How do you set specific goals, and how do you make sure those people are achieving those goals, and even better, how they are progressing as professionals, so you make sure that your team only has high performing members? And what do you do with the low performers? How do you create action plans for them? And how do you know when it's time to fire those people? Sometimes you will be eligible to mentor your team members. How do you share your knowledge acquired by years of practice and study? And how can you make them understand things faster and improve in their career in an exponential way? Think as if you have a mentor like you in the past, where you be at the place that you are right now. So think about this way. How do you reduce the time that those people will need to spend to evolve in their career? And how can you help them to grow based on your experience? How do you handle stressful situations? How do you deal with anger? You need to understand some signs that your body gives to you, and need to read those kind of signs from the people who work with you, and take breaks in proper moments to make the environment good to work. And last but not least, how do you deal with diversity and inclusion in your team? How do you make sure everyone on your team is heard, understood, and feel part of the team? All of these were not just tasks, but they are required skills for both a manager and a leader. And if you want to really grow in your career and grow as a human being, then you definitely need to be a manager and a leader of people. So if you want to understand more about how to be an actual engineer manager, please subscribe to the channel, and soon I will be launching an online course about which kind of knowledge, skills, and frameworks do you need to master to be a successful engineer manager. I really hope that you like this video, and I see you in the next one. Thank you.